Hey, hello everyone on this very cold winter's day in Sydney. Nice and warm elsewhere, except for double for Rajiv. But thank you for joining us, and thank you for Professor Nick Embleton from Newcastle in the UK to speak to us today. I think almost everyone in the world knows Nick. He's got lots of research interest. They do, Nick, so don't shake your head. He likes to look at gut function and nutrition, growth and metabolic outcomes later, brain development, cerebral palsy, and reproductive loss. One of the things that I found out about Nick was that he set up the Great North Neonatal Biobank that's looking at salvage specimens for biomarkers of health. Is that still going?
Still going. Yep.
That's a very, very cool project. So what he's doing is taking all the
Hmm.
leftover
Clever.
specimens and looking at biomarkers. But anyway, today he's going to speak to us about his experience in the development of a service that supports parents for lactation after the loss of an infant. Initially, this was going to be chaired by Catherine Carroll from the Australian National University, who has a lot more experience than me on this project. But unfortunately, Catherine's sick today. So Nick has given us permission to record this. So feel free to share this recording after it's churned out and sped up by Zoom. And I will also put a link to a course he's doing in the UK, which is free to NHS staff, but free to other people for 2 weeks. So I'll put that up in the chat group. So just some general housekeeping rules before I pass the reins on to Nick. Please mute yourself when you're in the room. If you have any questions, type them onto the chat pane and Nick will get to them after he finishes. And if that's okay with you, Nick, I'll also put your email for people to contact if there are any
Yep.
questions that we don't have time for. Thank you. So without further ado, I think you've got people from everywhere, including my friend Abdullah from Saudi. Oh my God, you're all dressed up, Abdullah. Oh my goodness. Well, people are coming in from everywhere in the world. So over to you, Nick. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks so much, Julie, for the invitation. So as Julie said, I'm a neonatologist in Newcastle upon Tyne, which is in the northeast of England. I've had a long-standing interest in nutrition for preterm babies. So I started my work in this area maybe 30 years ago now. And then probably about 10, 15 years ago, I started working with a team of social scientists and qualitative researchers looking into the experiences of parents who suffered a neonatal loss. Um, and that developed into what's called the Butterfly Project, which focused on the specific situation where there was a multiple pregnancy and one baby died and at least one baby survived. And that really kind of sparked my interest in this kind of area for the last 10 or 15 years. And this is a kind of new project, really, the last couple of years that brings together my interests both in nutrition and in support for parents after perinatal loss. And I'm going to show you today the outline of the course that we've created. And as Judy says, we can give you the link for that. And this is a 2-hour online learning course which goes into some of the issues I'm going to discuss today in a bit more detail. And I want to acknowledge Laura, who is the bereavement lead for the Milk Bank at Chester, who really set up the project across the UK, which is called the Memory Milk Gift Initiative. And the British Association of Perinatal Medicine produced a framework on this 2 years ago as well. And that framework forms the basis of the course. And in addition to working collaboratively with the BAPM and the Milk Bank, as you can see there, we also involved a number of advocacy organizations. Some of those are listed there, in providing support and endorsement for this course. And the course was made in collaboration with parents themselves. So the course is hosted on a platform called FutureLearn. We can give you the link for this. And it's just a 2-week course for 1 hour a week, although you can do it all in one go. And I want to acknowledge that along with Laura, there are a number of other healthcare professionals working in hospices, primary care, neonatal units, or lactation support who contributed to the development of the course. And the course has been running just for 3 or 4 weeks. And here you can see, excuse me, the different kind of roles of people who have joined the course so far. And since the course has been open, I say just for 3 or 4 weeks, we've got about 250 people who have joined the course. So I want to kind of go back to 2 years ago when I first heard about this. And prior to stumbling across a webinar, I'd never really thought about this before, which is perhaps surprising because, you know, as with many of you who are neonatologists, we've cared for probably hundreds of families suffering baby loss. And most of us have probably never engaged with speaking to the parents about the lactation choices they may want to make after the death. And when I first heard about the idea that women might want to initiate lactation after a stillbirth solely with the intention of donating that to a milk bank, I was a bit surprised, if I'm honest. I, like a lot of you, probably feel that donor milk is of benefit in many cases. But I was a bit uncertain about whether supporting women to continue lactation after a neonatal death or a stillbirth would necessarily always be good for them, whether it make their kind of healing and dealing with grief a bit worse, would it make their mental health issues more complicated, or might women even be upset or offended by the idea that we raise the issue? So I would sort of just encourage all of you to honestly think, what do you think about this? I mean, does it sound like a kind of good idea, or is it something that brings up lots of concerns? Now, as I say, I was kind of a bit skeptical when I first heard about it. And in the presentation that Laura did, she showed this video of a mum speaking about her baby Bodhi who died. All of you would have gathered from the title of the talk that we're going to be talking about stillbirth and neonatal loss, but I'm just going to warn you that, you know, some of the topic can be quite emotional. So if you want to switch off, you're welcome to do so. But I'm just going to show you this short video. It goes for about 3 or 4 minutes. And after watching this video, I was completely convinced that we had a duty as health professionals to make this option available to parents.
Hi, my name's Holly and I donated my milk after my son passed away at 41 weeks. He was stillborn. Whilst in hospital, no one told me or explained to me that I could donate my milk, something that my body was going to start producing, because even though my son had passed away, he was still going to be born, and my body thought that he needed to be fed. Whilst I was waiting for the induction medication to work, which takes 48 hours, I started doing some research about baby loss, about what my body was going to go through. And somewhere I stumbled across the fact that I could donate my milk, that I could donate Bodhi's milk. Straight away, I knew it was something that I wanted to do. I wanted to do in his name. I wanted something that I made for him to go to other babies to help other families not go through what I was going through, what I have gone through, what I still am going through. All the hospital did was offer me medication to stop my milk. And to be honest, when I told them that I was going to donate my milk, some of my family and some of the consultants and midwives, they were concerned for my mental health. But actually, it was the best thing for my mental health. It gave me a reason to look after myself in a really dark time when otherwise I'm not really sure what I would have done. Who knows? Maybe donating milk in a way saved my life, because it really did make myself cook myself meals and, you know, be hygienic. Little things that most people take for granted, but when you're going through grief, it doesn't come naturally to want to look after yourself. So I'm really grateful that I came across the milk bank at Chester, because I tried a few other milk banks before, and none of them wanted to work with me. In fact, one of them said that they couldn't offer me the pastoral help that I needed. No one needed to give me pastoral help. I was going to be grieving regardless. Still am grieving, will be forever grieving. I just wanted to donate my milk. I wanted to donate Bodhi's milk. I wanted him to leave a positive mark on this planet, like I always had hoped that he would. And through my milk, through his milk, through donating with the milk bank at Chester, his name lives on. He is a little light in a sometimes dark world. His milk helped potentially hundreds of families not go through the pain that I still go through. I just want hospitals to inform all families of milk donation. And even though it seems like a really hard thing to do when a family has lost something so precious, actually it can provide a little bit of hope, and that you don't always have to tread on eggshells. Sometimes a bit of information can really lift a shattered heart just a little bit, like it did for me. So thank you for listening.
I'm sure all of you agree that's a pretty powerful video. And if I only had 4 minutes of people's time to persuade them that this was something we needed to think about pretty carefully, then I would spend most of it just showing them that video. What I'm going to do now is just kind of run through the kind of outline of the course and talk about some of the issues in detail. So when you go to FutureLearn, you'll see that the weeks are broken down into a series of steps. And these steps are either going to be video steps or short text steps or discussion steps, and they only take about 4 or 5 minutes to complete. And as I say, it's based on the BAPM framework and been endorsed by lots of parent-led advocacy organizations. And in the course, we go through some basic physiology. Many of you will know that, colostrum is produced from the kind of second trimester for about 16 weeks onwards, but lactogenesis is then inhibited by the high levels of circulating progesterone. When the placenta is delivered, the levels of progesterone drop, and under the influence of prolactin, the mammary gland starts to go into lactogenesis too. And this early milk, the early colostrum over the first few days, is produced largely under kind of hormonal mechanisms. But then towards the end of the first week, when the baby is suckling, it's milk withdrawal from the breast that stimulates further milk production. And as you know, if the mother does not establish successful latching of the baby or expressing, then full lactogenesis is inhibited. And milk is produced under a series of kind of feedback loops. So normally thinking about your baby or hearing your baby crying for milk will actually initiate milk expression. But also, obviously, stress, anxiety will negatively impact. And these mechanisms circulate through the hypothalamus, and the pituitary gland, and the anterior pituitary produces prolactin, and the posterior pituitary produces oxytocin, and these act on the breast to induce milk secretion. But if there's milk stasis, you get production of the peptide feedback inhibitor of lactation, which negatively impacts on prolactin levels. But suckling by the baby positively impacts this contraction of the smooth muscles in the breast ducts. And that in turn acts back on the hypothalamus to continue the feedback loop. So if a mother suffers a stillbirth or a neonatal death, what options are available? Well, there are options of passive suppression, active suppression, or continued lactation. And there are a number of sort of traditional, more simple measures, such as cold compresses or cabbage leaves. None of these have any very good, strong RCT evidence. Simple analgesia might be helpful. Wearing a well-supported bra may help. There's no evidence that binding of the breast is beneficial, but in some cultures it has symbolic value. So all of us should be aware of these simple measures. And all of us should be aware and inform mums to watch out for the signs of mastitis, which will be well known to all of you and may sometimes require antibiotic treatment, but also obviously continued milk withdrawal from the breast. Now, there are active ways of suppressing lactation through drugs. Previously, bromocriptine was used as well, but more recently people have favoured cabergoline. This should be prescribed obviously by the medical team caring for the mother. I don't think we as neonatologists should necessarily be providing this to mothers. So of course you need knowledge of the side effects to be able to counsel the mum, and you should have local pathways and guidelines. But it's also been observed that mothers who take pharmacological suppression have much more rapid drops in their prolactin and oxytocin levels. And so cabergoline may actually negatively impact on mother's mental health. And I'm not going to go through all of the data behind this, but if you go to the course, embedded in the different steps, we have some references, PDFs, and link outs where you can get further information on this. People have talked about the idea of kind of white tears or milk tears. We prefer the term milk tears because white has sort of, cultural connotations sometimes. And this can be seen in the context of theories around grief. And there is the continuing bonds theory of grief, which is really all about the desire for any of us who experience loss to somehow maintain bonds with that thing or the person. And so grief is a fluid concept, and it changes over your life. You don't move on from grief, but you learn to incorporate it. And the continuing bonds theory, when applied to, for example, milk lactation, may help some women make meaning of what's happened. Women have said that it helps them turn something bad into something good. There's a little bit of evidence that it may actually reduce the risk of complicated grief. As I say, there may be some biological impacts of maintaining your oxytocin levels. And as Holly said, some women describe this sense of purpose every day. And just again to highlight that in the course, as well as some videos, we also have some audio clips to listen to with people speaking about their experiences. People have also suggested that donating milk may allow bereaved women to adopt what's called a transformative identity. I knew very little about identity before I started working with the social scientists 10 or 15 years ago. But your identity is made up both of your beliefs, but also your behaviors and the qualities and the things that you do in life. So identity is a complex construct. And in the context of donation after loss, people have talked about this being a transformative identity, where at the start you have a woman who is excited, a parent to be, but that identity is shattered with the death of a baby. And she then must learn to accept a new identity as a bereaved mother. And being a donor allows the mothers to have this transformative identity, moving from a parent to be to being a grieving parent. And for some, it seems to help them come to terms with this new identity and empower them in some way. Now, there are clearly lots of different influences on the decision that the mother will choose to make that feels best for her. Obviously, close family, partners, and perhaps other children in the family or grandparents may have a role. There are clearly lots of important religious, cultural, and spiritual factors, and what feels right to one family won't feel right to another. And all of us working with our diverse populations and communities need to learn to work with cultural humility. Now, we and everybody working in this area recognise that we need more research, particularly to better understand some of the religious aspects. And in Islam, many of you will be aware of the concept of milk kinship. And this clearly has important ramifications for this practice in those communities. So we recognise the need for better research in this area. There's been some work mainly actually conducted in Australia by a group based in Sydney. In this short paper, they looked at the views of bereaved fathers and identified some very important themes, showing that breast milk and feeding holds significant meaning for them, both in the context of NICU care and palliative care, and involving fathers in this decision-making is vital, particularly because they can provide care and support for their partners. And some men report that lactation after loss positively impacts on their grief and meaning making. And I think we all therefore recognise the need for better information in this area and to see lactation after loss as part of a package of bereavement care that really extends the concept of family integrated care or family-centred care. Sadly, information on this isn't widely available. This is from the same group in Sydney, where they looked at lots of different websites for lactation, and they found that there was a real lack of information in most websites that was targeted to bereaved mothers. And where there was information, the most common option presented was actually lactation suppression, with no discussion of the possibility of initiation and continuation. In the course, we wanted to hear from some other parents who were involved. You're going to hear from Ollie and Abby about Francis, who died unexpectedly at about 6 months of age. But before I play that video, I just want to read this quote. "It seems as if people were scared to offer me the choice of donation, whereas in fact the very worst thing that could ever happen had already happened. My baby had died, and I wanted the option to decide for myself." So I'm just going to play you a little bit of this short clip from Abby and Ollie talking about their experiences.
Hello, I'm Oliver, and this is my wife, Abby. We lost our son, Francis, when he was 6 months old, unexpectedly back in 2019. We just wanted to take a few minutes to talk about our donation after loss journey.
So after Francis had passed away and we were in the hospital, I said, partway through the discussions that I was full and ready to feed again. Francis actually passed away while he was feeding, so this is about 4 hours later I was ready to feed him again. Obviously with Francis being 6 months, breastfeeding was a huge part of our life and what we did every day. And I was brought a breast pump and told that I was going to be given tablets to dry up the milk, and that would take about 2 weeks. Immediately I said that's not really something that I wanted. Obviously breastfeeding was something I was hugely proud of, a huge part of my identity as a mum. And I felt almost like that was being snatched away. A couple of weeks earlier, coincidentally, I had seen a social media post about donating breast milk, not after loss, but just milk sharing. And I asked if that was something that I could do with Francis's milk.
I think something that really strikes me looking back is that the one sort of little bit of support that we did get in that time, that when I look back really did make a big difference, was that the next day we had a breastfeeding midwife come out to Abby's parents' house where we were staying at the time, and got Abby all set up with the pump, but took time to talk about Francis and check in with us. She was with us for a good hour, and then a few weeks later she was back again checking in. I think that was really important for us looking back.
Yeah, I think in terms of the information that we were given initially about donating, it wasn't great. We were given an out-of-date phone number for the milk bank, and it took my mum a lot of phoning around and digging to find the information to donate to the milk bank. I think there was a lot of apprehension on whether it was the right thing to do for me, and I was told initially, okay, do it for a couple of weeks and slowly let the milk dry up that way. And it was one of those things I kind of said, okay then, with the intention of knowing that I just had to carry on expressing the milk for the time being.
So I've cut that clip short, but so I encourage you to go, and I think you can just see how important it was to that family to be able to continue their breastfeeding journey. And you know, I just want to say now, just a huge amount of credit to Abby, Holly, and everybody, every bereaved parent who contributed to what we now know to be an important practice. Just big respect to all of them. Here's another mum: donating milk after Evie died gave me a purpose, a reason to wake up each day and keep going, a legacy that Evie left behind to help other people. Being able to donate milk in his memory helped me through my grief from the worst time of my life. Family and health professionals showed concern when I said I wanted to donate, but actually it turned out to be the best thing for my mental health. Here's another mum: I understand why no one wants to talk about lactation after loss, but how dare they play God by not discussing choices that are available to our family. And clearly, bereaved women have lots of different people who might be offering opinions to them. It's very important that we try and understand where they're getting their support and information from, and do our best to support them in a way that feels culturally appropriate for those women. And again, just to highlight in the course, you can listen to grandparents and other people in the family talking what it felt like to them to have their sister or daughter donate milk in this way. So as health professionals, I think we have a duty to inform women of the options available and help them support parents to make the choice that feels right for them. We're not suggesting that anybody should be encouraging women to do this or saying this is our preferred option. We're not saying that. We're simply saying this is an option that should be made available to bereaved women, and they should have the choice to make the decision that feels right for them. Clearly, women who choose to do this will be based back out in the community, and so important for us to think about how we work with primary care teams, perhaps community midwives or outreach teams or counsellors, lactation consultants. And if you are setting up to do this, then need to have a think about all of those forms of support and how that could be put into a practice guideline. Anticipatory care planning is very important. As neonatologists, we're often asked to consult with women in fetal medicine, and we may speak with women who are carrying babies who have hypoplastic left heart or Edwards syndrome, where short life is anticipated. And it's only reasonable, I think, that we prepare women for the fact that they will undergo lactogenesis. And as part of discussions, in the same way that with some parents we may raise the issue, or parents may raise the issue of organ donation, we should also be prepared to raise the issue of milk donation. So planning ahead could be very important. And obviously breast milk in the context of palliative care and end-of-life care is a very important component. And here, really just to emphasize that if we have these discussions with parents, we need to record these discussions, and we need to make sure we share the implications with other members of the healthcare team. It might be primary care or midwifery or whatever. Document it in both medical and handheld notes, check the accuracy with parents, and reassure them that even if they make a decision to do one thing, they can still at any stage change their mind. We came up with this acronym for discussing with parents. I'm not going to go through it in detail, but really to emphasize the importance of open discussions, being prepared to go back and revisit things, explore all of the different options, to act with empathy and respect, and to review what the women choose with them. What are the challenges to do this? Well, look, I think all of you can see there are multiple challenges. There are lots of entrenched opinions and lots of biases out there. I think a lot of us suffer from a bit of fear and uncertainty, like, actually, what is it I should say? There are some education gaps, some of which I might be helping to plug today. And we all have our own personal experiences in paternalism. And we need to avoid this idea that I'm not sure this is a good thing for you type phrases. So as I say, the course promotes the importance of offering informed choice, not saying this is the preferred option. All of you working in neonatal units, I think, will recognise the increasing demand to use donor milk. I've been involved in the Cochrane review, and we've got an update coming out later this year that incorporates the trial from Tara Kalase's group in the US. And I think now that donor milk probably should be seen as standard of care where there is a shortfall in mother's milk, at least in the first few days and weeks. There are lots of reasons why women may choose to donate after loss. I think you heard some of those from Holly and Abby. There are likely to be many individual reasons why women choose. And as I say, anecdotally so far, the feedback has really been amazing. But we do recognise that it won't be the right choice for some women. And there may be some women who choose to try and do this who are not successful, and maybe we're not hearing their voices at the minute. So we clearly need lots more research. And as I say, lots of very important quotes and very important reasons that the women have told us why they want them to have this made available to them. And in the course, we give some guidance on good practice. As I say, I'm not going to go through these in detail. If you're interested to learn more, then please just go and join the course. A few important contraindications. Quite a lot of medications contraindicate donation. Smoking contraindicates it. Drinking more than 1 or 2 units of alcohol 1 or 2 times per week, or excess caffeine and blood transfusions. Tattoos and acupuncture may not necessarily be contraindications for some units you need to check. Women will all need to undergo serological testing. And clearly, lactation after loss should be seen in the context of memory making. And the Milk Bank at Chester in the UK offer these beautiful wooden memories where they've kind of hand paint on the name of the baby. And there's also this memory milk bank tree that is in place at the Chester Milk Bank, and mothers can choose to have their baby's name added to that as well. Clearly, again, as neonatologists, part of our job involves having challenging conversations. Lots of things that we already think about when we go and speak to parents after a neonatal death, and lots of things in this context that we would need to be aware of, particularly, where is the baby's body at this point in time, and certification and post-mortem and all of these things. And from speaking to, colleagues and trainees, a lot of people say, I just don't know how to start that conversation. So in the course, we have a number of phrases. We're not saying that you should say these verbatim, but for those people who feel a little bit underconfident, we've offered some phrases here that may help just get you started. And as I say, with all skills, you need to practice this first, and then over time, learn from your experience and reflect on your experience. So as I say, we provide this kind of guidance. And this is clearly a very sensitive conversation. We need really good communication skills, both in speaking to the parents, but also thinking about communication within the department so that everybody knows whether you have had the conversation or whether you have still to have that conversation with the family. As well as some examples of phrases, we've also included some audio transcripts of people, of nurses speaking to parents in terms of what they would say. So, as I say, lots more information that you can get in the course. I'm just going to kind of finish up now. Just a very couple of minutes, short video from Holly. The Milk Bank have had a chance to have had over 200 bereaved women donate milk now, and they have 30 active donors on the go. And so this is just a short video.
Hi, I'm Bodhi's mum, Holly. I chose to donate Bodhi's breast milk after he was stillborn at 41 weeks and 3 days. And I'm incredibly grateful to the Milk Bank at Chester for the opportunity to do this with them. I don't know how many times I can say thank you because it never feels enough. I don't think I can ever fully express how incredibly grateful I am that I got to do this with them. They're superstars. I never realised or even thought how much of a comfort donating breast milk could be to other grieving families. It turns out there's a lot of us who find that it gives us a sense of purpose in a time that is so incredibly dark, where purpose seems to have just lost all meaning. Nothing makes sense anymore. So I can never shout their praises enough. I was also supported by For Louis. Instead of getting to walk out of the hospital with my baby in my arms, I gripped hold of a For Louis box. I'm really sorry to Kirsty and Michael that you lost your baby too. I hate that any of us go through this, but I just want to say thank you for the thought, the time and the energy that you guys put into creating this box and supplying them to hospitals. Whenever I want to feel close to Bodhi, it's your box that I go to.
So again, you can listen to the full video in the course. So really, this is about offering an informed choice, the importance of all of us acting with respect and professionalism and empathy, recognizing the diversity of beliefs, culture, and religion that are with us in our practices, and also recognizing that for some of you listening, you may come from cultures or religions where this does not feel appropriate. So we're not saying this is something that everybody has to do. We're saying that this needs to be seen in the context of the prevailing culture of your settings, and recognizing the important influences of families and friends, but also obviously the opportunities and challenges that we're now faced with, and thinking how we actually make this work in practice. So I would encourage all of you to do the course, share it with all of your teams and staff. As I say, if you go to the Future Learn website, you can log on and you get free access for 2 weeks. Think about making this kind of a normal part of what you do. So as neonatologists, it's a normal thing for us to have a discussion with parents after a baby dies to talk about certification and next steps. And there's no reason why this shouldn't be seen as a normal component of that. And then if you want to take it on, think about developing your own guidelines and policies and procedural documents and contacting your local milk banks to work out the actual mechanisms for doing this. And just to finish off and say there that there are lots of references in the course if you want to see them, but you can of course go back and look at this video, the recording again, and take some of these references down if you want to. And I'm going to finish there and say thank you very much.
Thank you, Nick. A very powerful presentation. If you're okay with it, we might just go to a few questions. Elizabeth from Brunei. Maybe Elizabeth, why don't you unmask yourself and ask your question? It's about the length of donation. Or is she feeling a bit shy? No, she's never shy.
Hi. Thanks, Nick, for that very good talk. That's very informative. I do think that we do go through the bereavement counseling sessions with them. I have to say I've never asked them about lactation, and the obstetricians here tend to automatically give up the bromocriptine for them. Just out of curiosity, when they do decide to carry on with lactation, on average, how long do most mums carry on for? And if they do decide that they do want to stop, then what do you do about that?
Yeah, a great question, and thanks for joining. Typically, it's 2 or 3 months. Some will go for longer, and some may be shorter. As I said, that there may be women who want to do this or try and do it and don't succeed, and of course we may not hear from them. We may give them this information, we may give them the kit, they may go home and maybe they try for 48 hours and it's unsuccessful. We don't know about these women because we don't have a service that would contact and go out and support them. So I think it will be quite variable. 2 or 3 months feels like the average, but I think some will go for much longer. And you're right, neonatologists, we tend never to discuss this. I never really thought about mentioning it to mothers when I spoke to them after a neonatal death. I asked my nurses, I said, oh, do you speak to them about this? And they said, well, no, I think the obstetricians do it and the midwives do it. And I spoke to the midwives, they said, oh, well, we thought the neonatal nurses would do it because we're not seeing the mum anymore. And then, the obstetricians say, well, actually, I think the general practitioners do it. Everybody thinks somebody else is doing it, and quite often nobody's doing it, and the mums go home and they just have to find out on their own. And I kind of get that for years people gave out bromocriptine. That was just seen as the normal thing to do. And it's fine. That is what we did. That's what everybody's been doing, because we just weren't aware of this as an option. And this came from mothers themselves. This didn't come from us. This came from mothers saying, I want to do this. So I do think we have a duty now to say to moms, yeah, this is an option. I don't think we should just slip back and do the easy thing, which is just to say, we'll take some bromocriptine.
And if they do decide to stop, I mean, do you have a way of
Yep.
actually
Yeah,
monitoring, like when they deliver the milk to them? And
yeah.
at what
The
point?
milk banks, the milk banks maintain close contact with these mums because they're obviously arranging regular pickups, and they have a sort of an aid memoir written down to encourage you just to kind of pump one less time a day and spread it out, and then one less time and spread it out. So they do provide a bit of guidance about doing just slowly decreasing, perhaps over a few days or something like that. But I mean, for some mums, as you know, they may continue to produce milk, for weeks later. I think people imagine that that you stop breastfeeding and a couple of days later it's all dried up and that's it. It's not that that isn't the case. There will be some women who continue to produce small amounts of milk for many days and weeks. And I think as neonatologists, we're pretty uninformed about those aspects.
Great, thank you.
Thank you both. Okay, Donna's made a very good comment here. I never thought about this. So Donna, feel free to interject if you want to. But what she said is that if primate expresses after a stillbirth or neonatal loss, this initial lactogenesis will set her up for better breastfeeding experience the next time. So that's
absolutely. I mean, it's a great point on it.
Yeah.
And
excellent point. Yeah.
We don't really talk about that in the course, but I mean, and I think everybody knows that if you've breastfed your first baby, you're much more likely to be successful at breastfeeding your second baby. I don't think we've incorporated that in terms of discussions with the mothers themselves, but you're right, maybe that is something that could be highlighted, because there will be a lot of women who have an intention of having a subsequent pregnancy and presumably breastfeeding that baby as well.
So everyone's thanking you. Donna, do you want to add anything to that? That's a great comment. So maybe we all need training in this, right? Because it's something that I certainly never thought of it, never experienced it. It should be part of our learning package.
I agree. I mean, I'm exactly the same. And I'd love to say that I thought of this years ago. It never crossed my mind. We always spoke to mothers on the NICU if the baby had died, what they wanted us to do with any leftover frozen EBM. And most often they asked us to send it to a milk bank, but that's as far as we got with our thinking. So yeah, I mean, as I say, when I saw Holly's video, I just thought, oh, absolutely, there's no question that we have a duty to offer it and provide support. We now just have to get our arse in gear and work out how we sort of make it happen. Because what we find from a lot of mothers is that the first health professional they contact hasn't heard of it and can be incredibly negative about it and say, oh, I don't think you should do it. So we need to make sure that everybody gets educated.
I was just going to ask Adrienne to turn on her video. You can speak without your video, Adrienne.
I can speak.
Hairdresser. Oh my God.
I am not going to share my video. Nick, we have a new guideline here for care after stillbirth and neonatal death, which is accessible online. I've just put the link in the chat. I just wonder whether we might be able to add a link to your course in a couple of the sections. So there is, I think we've got your references in the section on lactation after loss, and it talks about options and the options should be offered, but it doesn't have the detail that you have in your presentation or on the course. So I can email you separately about it, but maybe if you had a look at that link and you can see what's in there, and if you were happy, I can get the team to add that in, because I think that would be really a good fit. Yeah,
excellent. I did see, I was at Penzance. That's when I met Julie. I didn't know Julie before Penzance, and so I saw the presentation. I went to have a look at some of the work that you've been doing there, which is great. But yeah, I mean, I think like just putting a link in there, at least, you know, people might see might get a link from that place. So yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Brilliant. And Adrienne has been strong-armed to presenting the guidelines in a couple of weeks' time. So I'll send out the invitations for that. Get back to your hair, Adrienne. Thank you.
Sorry, that's so embarrassing. Admitting I'm in the hairdressers. Never mind.
You're making yourself beautiful. Okay. All right. If there are no more questions, look, Nick, I think it should be part of our like neonatal and perinatal training program, isn't it? Because every time we have to entertain a conversation like this, we just run away. None of us are trained or taught how to do these conversations, and it's so important. So important. Yeah.
I think you know, and I think it kind of, I know everybody's a bit anxious about it. My experience with this project and all the other kind of work I've done around perinatal loss is it actually makes our jobs much more enjoyable. To
Yeah.
feel, you know, 'cause we all feel terrible for these parents, yet here's something we can do that could be a kind of a small glimmer of positivity to them. So once you learn what form of words and when to kind of introduce it, I think it'll make our jobs better as well. So I would encourage you all not to kind of run away from it. And then as one mother said, look, you know, my baby just died. Like the idea that you feel a little bit uncomfortable talking about it, I mean, like, hell, shit, get over it. Like it's nothing compared to what I'm going through. And I think that's what we have to remember is like, yeah, it doesn't feel like an easy conversation, but for some women, this is going to be a good thing. And not having the skills to know how to present it and offer it, it's just a real shame, I think, because it's a kind of win-win on lots of levels.
That's right, because death is part of our life in the ICU.
Right, it is. Right,
Yeah.
it is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so we all have to finish doing our hair and go and cook dinner. So thank you very much for your
All
time,
right.
Nick.
Good to meet you all. And anybody who wants
so-
to email me or whatever can do. Yeah.
Okay, I'll share your email on the WhatsApp group and post the link up for the talk. Thank you so much, Nick. All right,
Thank
bye
you. All right.
everyone.
All the best.
Bye
All right,
bye.
bye.